Good evening, Mr. Bond fans, and welcome once again. Because the good people on Patreon, good people like you, Benjamin Burry, supported me and voted in last month's poll, today I'm going to be taking a look at probably the most defining Bond spoof of all, Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery. We're over 20 years now since the film was released. Does it still hold up? I have to admit that I was a bit young when the movie first came out in 1997 to see it at the cinema, but being an adolescent growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, it was impossible not to know what Austin Powers was. It was that movie that your friends had on video because their dad liked it, and you'd go around and watch it as a group and laugh at the crude gags and Mike Myers' rubber face, and the catchphrases were social currency in the playground, yeah baby, and groovy baby, were things that everyone knew, and as a 10-year-old, if you pulled out one of those impersonations, you would almost guarantee a laugh from your peers. This is the first time I've watched Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery in many years, and despite really looking forward to this, and not to give away too much too soon, but I just don't know if this movie is really for me anymore. A lot of the humor is very crude and relies purely on swear words and sex jokes, and don't get me wrong, those things can be funny if used in the right way. Here, it feels very much like the target audience was adolescents, and I guess the gags work on that level, but more of an interest to me now is the stuff that parodies and satirizes the Bond movies. That's why I'm talking about the movie here, after all. So, there is a plot, but there's not much to it, and that's clearly the intention, and that's totally fine. The film is designed as a vehicle for Mike Myers, so how we get from scene to scene and sketch to sketch isn't the main concern, but in summary, Austin Powers is a British spy, played by Mike Myers, whose nemesis is Dr. Evil, a criminal mastermind, played by Mike Myers. Dr. Evil freezes himself in 1967 with an eye to being revived sometime in the future to do more evil in the future. Austin Powers follows suit and the pair are brought back in 1997. Dr. Evil then plans to steal some nuclear weapons and hold the world to ransom for $100 billion. He also learns that he has a son who was born while he was frozen. Austin Powers, on the other hand, is assigned an assistant, Vanessa Kensington, played by Elizabeth Hurley, and the pair are tasked with tracking down Dr. Evil and thwarting his evil plan. So far, so Thunderball. The film appropriates one of the most basic Bond plots, but that's fine, as I say, I'm not here for plot, so as thin as it is, it doesn't really matter. The film is really a showcase for Mike Myers, who, I must say, I don't have much knowledge of. I think the only things that I've seen him in are these movies and the occasional bizarre supporting role he may have in something like Inglourious Basterds or Bohemian Rhapsody. I suppose he's much bigger in America than he is here in the UK through his work on Saturday Night Live and the like, and you know what, I think as Dr. Evil, he's really great. As Austin Powers, I'm not so sold. And a part of the reason for that is that I think, Austin Powers is the hero. He should be the James Bond figure, but he's more Michael Caine than Sean Connery. Spy work, womanizing, and incredibly hairy chest aside, there isn't much of an attempt to make Powers anything like Sean Connery, the film obviously being mostly inspired by 60s Bond films. With the glasses and accent, Austin Powers is definitely more Michael Caine, and his whole swinging 60s aesthetic is completely polar opposite to Bond's stylish tuxedos and the like. Maybe it's misguided to describe the movie as a Bond spoof at all. I mean, it's more of a love letter to a lot of 60s culture and characters, and Powers was intended as such himself. He was never supposed to be a direct take on any Bond actor, and that really only occurred to me through this time watching. But even taking that into account, I don't find Myers as Austin Powers all that funny. He goes a bit too over the top too often for me. There's a lot of mugging at the camera and rubber face stuff that I just don't find funny. In a comedy sketch for 5 minutes, it might be great, but for a feature-length running time, that being said, he does have his moments. One of my favourite bits in the movie is when he arouses a group of sex robots to the point that they combust, though I do love that scene largely down to the song I Touch Myself by Divinals being used, and I just love that song. Elizabeth Hurley is very much the straight man to Myers, and she plays the part well, but she's probably the only straight character in the whole movie. I mean, even Powers' Secret Service boss Basil Exposition is a character very much played for laughs, which is unusual unusual, I guess. Like, usually in comedies you either have ordinary characters in an extraordinary world or an extraordinary character in a, relatively grounded world. And here, everything is just completely, batshit and insane. But for me, Myers as Dr. Evil is where things really shine. Maybe it's because this is where we get all the Bond references and the Bond spoofing, but I really love Dr. Evil, even if that character did destroy any serious menace that Donald Pleasence's Blofeld might have once claimed. All my favourite gags in the movie are to do with Dr. Evil, all the stuff with his son and the therapy group they attend, hosted by Carrie Fisher for some bizarre reason, killing insubordinate employees and showing us what happens when we don't cut away from villains who are sharing a cackle, all being highlights for me. There are a couple of great supporting villains too. Robert Wagner is here as an Emilio Largo style number 2, and Mindy Sterling does a great turn as Rosa Klebb, and there's also Joe Sun as Random Task with his deadly razor shoe, and no prizes for guessing who that character is spoofing. So it's definitely the Connery films that are the focus of the parody here, and I think that any audience with a rudimentary understanding of what a James Bond film is will get most of the gags, and that's fine, it has to play to that mass market. And yeah, I was kind of surprised at how much was in here that I think only die-hard Bond fans would really pick up on and appreciate. Especially the hot tub scene where Powers and a femme fatale known as a Lotta Vagina exchange some dialogue straight out of You Only Live Twice. There's a nice gambling scene with Robert Wagner's character who has an X-ray eye patch that helps him cheat at cards, and another direct parody is that Dr. Evil is wanting to send the heroes to their deaths by feeding them to sharks with lasers on their heads, and it's a funny bit, but even funnier when you learn that robot sharks were actually pretty close to being in a Bond movie after they were featured in a script for a potential Sean Connery and Kevin McClory 007 film in the 70s. One of the more odd bits of referencing, to the extent that I don't know if it was even intended or not, is that Lois Childs, Dr. Holly Goodhead, is in the movie for some reason. Or at least in some versions anyway. It's strange, I remember this scene quite vividly from, when I watched the movie way back when, and it was certainly included in the movie as a whole on the DVD I watched for this most recent viewing, and yet when I was doing a little bit of research for this, apparently that scene and a few other bits were deleted from the theatrical version that was circulated in the United States, and I guess it's because it's a little bit dark, but it's one of the best bits of the movie, so if you can find it somewhere, do check it out.
Hello? Yes, this is Mrs. Harwin. Yes, my husband is a henchman in Dr. Evil's private army. What? Oh my God. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Mom.
Sit down, Billy. I've got some bad news. Your stepfather was run over by a steamroller.
But Mom, since Dad left, Steve's been like a father to me.
People never think how things affect the family of a henchman.
It's a pretty funny bit, actually. Austin has just killed a henchman at Dr. Evil's facility, and we cut to the guy's wife and stepson being informed of his death, and the wife is played by Lois Childs. They do a similar gag with Rob Lowe a little later too. Again, a deleted scene in some territories, but it still begs the question, why he and Carrie Fisher's roles weren't used for more appropriate cameos. I don't know if casting Childs was a deliberate thing, or whether she was friends with someone on the production who got her in or something, but it's odd that she's the only direct Bond cameo in the whole movie. The next direct thing being that Robert Wagner is the husband of Tiffany Case actress Jill St. John, and the widower of actress Natalie Wood, whose sister Lana Wood played Plenty O'Toole, also in Diamonds Are Forever, which was partly set in Las Vegas, just like this movie. Heck, why not get Jill St. John or Lana Wood in to be the therapist? Not that I don't love Carrie Fisher, but to me it doesn't make sense for her and Rob Lowe to be celebrity cameoing here. Actually, scratch that. Having Lana Wood and Robert Wagner in the same movie together probably wouldn't be such a good idea.
Why won't you speak to the detectives? They're super guys.
Lana,
Clear
why
yourself
would
if you can.
Why would you even bring up anything like that?
Anyway, back to the movie. It's very much a relic of the 90s, and a lot of the gags just don't play anymore. Some of the references just don't work, and yet despite that, I think that there's probably enough crude humor and enough rubber-faced Mike Myers stuff to appeal to 11, 12-year-olds who are watching it, as a group of friends or something. They can chat over the bits that they don't fully understand, but as far as Bond spoofs go, I actually think the Johnny English movies work much better, and also just much better as coherent movies in their own right. Not that Austin Powers aspires to cohesion, a good chunk of the film is improvised on set, and the plot is really just an excuse to go from gag to gag, from skit to skit, and if you love Mike Myers, you'll probably love this. Myself, I think he's fine, but I found myself laughing less than I thought I would, and I would have liked more Bond-related gags, so I guess I'd mildly recommend Austin Powers International Man of Mystery to other Bond fans. It's certainly held up as a defining spoof of 007 movies in the public consciousness, and you may well get a laugh or two out of it. So, thanks for watching, Bond fans, and I'm really curious to know if there are any people out there who have very strong feelings about this movie. Like, I came away from it with very mild opinions, I think, but if you either really love it or really hate it, I'd be really curious to know why. So please do leave comments below, and of course, if you would like to support me on Patreon and vote in next month's non-Bond spy movie poll, then please do head over there, the link is below, and with all that being said, so long for now, Bond fans.